the echo. I'll call the meeting to order. Roll call of members. George Brandt, County Board Supervisor, District 6.
Kellen Nelson.
What's that? In front of Mike.
Mike seems to be the one that's...
Oh, yep, that's on.
Is this better now? No? Well,
This is why we need IT here all the time.
all right, well, I'll continue.
Continue.
Kellen Nelson, District 14 Supervisor.
20 Munson, Towns Association Representative.
Kurt Squan, County Supervisor, District 16.
Chuck Wallach, County Supervisor, District 11.
Haley Passo, the Conservation Engineering Specialist.
Mark Carlson, Department of Land Management.
Burge Gamreth, Department of Land Management. I record the minutes for the meeting.
Mike Kornman, Land Management Director.
Thank you.
And Beth Williams, Supervisor number 7.
Thank you, Beth.
And I can see you now.
Okay. I'll certify the open meeting law requirements have been met. We have a amended, 16-item amended agenda. I'd entertain a motion to approve it. Motion by Nelson, second by Munson to approve. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's approved. If you've got a packet, we have 2 sets of minutes. We'll take them together. One has to do with the meeting that was virtual in the Wisconsin room, and the other was last month's meeting.
Motion to approve those 2 sets of minutes.
Second.
Motion by Wallach, second by Scoyen. Any corrections, additions? All in favor of approving both sets of minutes, say aye. Aye.
Killian will abstain from the January 5th minutes, but will approve the virtual minutes.
All opposed? They are passed, they are approved, rather. We'll move to our visit with Dwayne Snowball. What's our responsibility this time?
We're going to deal with a harvest exemption consideration. Can you hear me now? We'll deal with the harvest exemption consideration and then approval of the claims from last year.
So what's the exemption?
I handed out a sheet. Everybody should have one. So the first thing on the list is, with shooting permits, there's harvest quotas that come with them, as the committee's aware. And if they don't fully meet those quotas, then we have to get a harvest exemption, either to grant or deny. And the requirements under statute is they have to show X amount of effort for exemption to be granted and therefore get their claim paid. So the individual that we're going to be talking about is Ted Ravnum. He was issued what's called a standard permit. So the quota for a standard permit is 50% of the deer have to be harvested in the first 45 days and 80% by the end of the year. Ted was issued the tags on August 2nd, 2021. DNR issued him 10 tags. So his 50% quota was 5 deer by September 17th. There was no deer harvested in that time frame. The 80% quota, it technically goes into 2022, but for all intents and purposes, December 31st, 8 deer was needed and he got 9 deer were harvested, so he met that quota. So then DNR and Wildlife Services reviewed the hunting effort through his logs and shooting, his hunter log and his DNR has him keep another log So there was 2 logs that we reviewed to see if we could support the hunting effort. Unfortunately, there was not a lot of hunting that went on in the first 45 days. So it's hard to get to the requirements for Mr. Ravenham. So basically, under NR code, it's basically, there's an active shooting permit participant hunting log, which there was, that documented significant hunting effort. There was 8 hunters in 45 days. And the minimum to consider one is 5 hunter days per week, which is basically 3 hours per day by 1 hunter equals 1 hunter day. And then, if they're having trouble, supposed to contact the department and let us, either Wildlife Service or DNR know. None of that occurred. I've already talked to Ted that there could be an issue because of not getting any deer harvested in the first 45 days. That's the goal, is to start, when you have damage, just to start harvesting deer to minimize that damage for the state pays a claim. So after reviewing those records, I work with Gary Wolf, DNR Tech, out of Elm on it, and we concluded that there was not sufficient evidence to warrant an exemption under these circumstances, or the hunter logs and stuff that we reviewed. So our recommendation to the committee would be to not deny the exemption, and therefore the claim would not be paid.
So there's the reason for the tags is to minimize deer damage.
Correct.
Which is the reason for the the 50% in the first 45 days, or some effort showing the attempt to get 50% within the first 45 days.
Yes.
The total number is determined by some formula as being effective for long-term mitigation, and there was 9 of the 10 tags that were filled by the end of 21.
Correct.
Okay, so the issue that you're raising is there wasn't effort in terms of deer hunter days within the first 45 days.
Correct, based on they have to keep, under managed hunting access, they have to keep a hunter log that shows effort, and that's what we must review, okay? And then also DNR has a shooting permit log that everybody's wrote down when they do harvest a deer. Based on those dates, there was not enough hunter effort to satisfy the code that, the criteria we're supposed to use to determine if a shooting permit harvest exemption is supposed to can be granted. That's, the problem, and then being 5 deer off. They're supposed to meet both quotas, but the biggest one, quite frankly, is the 45-day one, the first half, because that's when the damage is occurring. When you harvest deer, deer season and after, the crop is gone. It didn't really do anything, because it doesn't. Shooting permits are not a population control method. It's to reduce ongoing damage at the time, because you remove some of the habitats there and deer move back in, or they, it's not meant to substantially reduce the population unless you have an island of habitat where there's just this small habitat with a bunch of deer. You can effectively do that then and that. But when you have interspersed habitat, wooded and stuff, and agricultural land, the goal is to use shooting permits. That's the goal, is an abatement to reduce ongoing damage.
Okay, I got that, and all these years you've been here, I've missed that element of the deer tag numbers.
So I did talk to Ted, and I said there's probably an issue. He said, well, this is a normal time to get the tags, and he took over for his dad, Steve. For the most part, Steve did fine hunting the same property. He indicated to me that, there's not much huntable land on the property, and there isn't a lot, but there is some. And then timing-wise, well, corn was up and stuff like that, and that's true. We had corn and soybeans as well, but again, we don't like recommending denial of anybody, But the reality is, you know, if it's one deer, no big deal, but to have 0 in the first 45 days and very little effort, it's hard to, for Wildlife Service and DNR to tell the committee that we should grant an exemption to keep consistent with everybody else that's filling their tags as well.
Okay. You've heard Dwayne's recommendation and his rationale. What's the desire of the committee? Okay. To approve the denial is Wallach. Is there a second? Scoyen. Okay. Any other discussion? So the motion is to accept the recommendation. All in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Thank
then
you for your
what'll hap-
recommendation and your explanation.
Yeah. And what'll happen now is I will send Mr. Abden a letter indicating that his claim was denied for these reasons. He will be given an opportunity to appeal, you know, and it'd come to this committee to do so, and Wildlife Service would be here, but they do have a right to an appeal. I don't think that'll happen, but I don't know. I think the last one we dealt here was 10, 12 years ago. It's not often, but, because I've already talked to Mr. Abden, and I'll talk to him again on it that way, but he will be sent a letter indicating that his claim was denied for this reason.
All right. Thank you, Dwayne. So, and what else do we have?
Second on the list is the actual claims then. So Dennis Frame, if you remember, is the llama that got hit by the bear. Charlotte Nelson would be corn and soybeans and deer. Ted's will be denied, but it was corn and soybeans. And then Greg Tollefson was corn and hay ground. So that's the appraised loss and the payable loss. Again, the payable loss is simply $500 less than the appraised loss unless it's over $5,500, and then it's 100% to that level, and then it's 80% after that. So if you look at Charlotte Nelson's, it's a difference in 500 versus everybody else is just 500. Once you get over 5,500, the claim's paid at 80% after that, up to a maximum of 10,000.
So, your recommendation is to approve all these claims except for the Ted Ravnum, which we have just denied.
That was correct. That is correct, yes.
Is there a motion to that effect? By Scoyen? Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Second by Wallach. Any other discussion? All right, all in favor of approving the 3 claims, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Can you turn your volume up a little bit, Beth? We just barely hear you.
Okay.
So, deer donation update, how'd it go this year?
It's pretty good. I don't have a lot, but as far as Trempealeau County goes, had 90 last year, 78 this year out of Bushies. That's the only one in Trempealeau County. Statewide total, the preliminary stuff I'm getting is 1,335. I think 78 for Bushies is good. I think they're just sent in one invoice. I don't have much else on it, and Bushy he averages about just under 40 pounds a deer. He did that last year, so that's good. I mean, because you're going to get some smaller ones in there. So overall, I think it's good. I don't have other ones to compare to. I got one in Clark County processor and then one in La Crosse County. So from the list of used to be 10, like we've talked before, a processor, I'm kind of down to 3 in the counties I cover. And that, again, that's cost to disposal and stuff like that, and CWD makes stuff complicated. So they are paying $80 a deer now for non-CWD areas versus they did that for 2 years versus a 65. If it's a CWD area, then they're $90 a deer. Now, folks bring in, and if they don't recognize it, he put in for 81 deer, I think Bushies did, but some came out of a CWD thing that was not tested, so they're not eligible for those to get paid.
He processed them, but they weren't eligible for payment, is that it?
Yeah, they weren't eligible for payment. There's requirements if it comes, because you can shoot a deer down in Crawford County, register it and bring it up here, and if you want to donate it in Trempealeau County, then it would be ran through Trempealeau County for payment. But if it's in CW endemic area, then that deer has to be held and tested. If Bushies didn't test it, then it's not eligible or have it tested. So that's
Well,
beyond, that's the state requirements for that.
So why don't we move into other wildlife activity and questions and talk about where the CWD endemic areas are and borderline areas and so forth.
Right now, I'm not fully up to speed on it. Trempealeau County's not one, but the line is down by La Crosse County right now, as I understand it.
Southern La Crosse or northern La Crosse? Makes
Well,
a
near
difference.
Crawford County and stuff like that on that bottom side there.
Okay.
I don't believe La Crosse County is it yet. I don't believe Trempealeau. Buffalo, because of what's happening in Eau Claire, I think Buffalo, at least portions of Buffalo County may be in because Eau Claire keeps getting positives on the west side of the county. And then there were some additional ones, I think one in Clark County or something this year. Right now, I don't believe Jackson County is, Trempealeau County, and I don't believe La Crosse is. They would be okay counties as far as not CW affected or associated with the adjacent county that way. So, but it's a difference. Not that they can't be, but the deer would have to be tested and held before they could move out, and go to a pantry.
Okay,
It just makes
that
it
was
more-
interesting too. Okay.
How is the processor supposed to, let's see, what am I looking to say?
Know where it's coming from.
Correct. Nowhere,
hunt-
because you're registering online.
The hunters, when they drop the deer off, are supposed to say where it's from. So they they sign a log. It's, John Smith harvested in this county. It's a doe or whatever they brought in. They donated.
Could you guys turn on your mics? Yeah.
How is the processor supposed to track that, I guess, without the volunteer information of the supplier?
They're supposed to get the volunteer because the hunters that bring it in have to sign.
Because they're getting reimbursed for the program.
Reimbursed, yeah, they have to sign, so where it comes from, and then the processor looks, this is where it is, and then that should be a red flag. That, okay, this deer would have to be, and if they don't want to do that, then they could say, well, that's because that's in the CWD area, I can't take that one that way. So it's not a great process, it's just, it is what it is, so.
Yeah, there's no check if they're telling the truth on the applications either.
That is correct, Chuck. But yeah, that's how it goes. So, but still, there's 78 deer, given the situation, now the limitations we're in. That's still pretty good as number of deer donated relative to other counties, and not losing. Bushy's is doing a fair amount of deer just for one processor. So, but, as far as other stuff, I don't know much about that legislation. I know there was some movement, at least a hearing in the beginning of January, but we have not heard anything from DNR on it. I talked to our state office late last week, and they haven't heard anything on it either, but there's been at least one hearing on it. So I don't know if there's some movement going to happen or not. I don't know, maybe the counties know more. I don't know. DNR is supposed to be keeping us informed.
Remind me the number of the Senate and the Assembly bills.
The Senate bill, I believe, is 63, George,
Okay,
and I want to say 49 on the other one, but
that sounds familiar.
49 on the Assembly. And I believe the Assembly is the one that had the hearing on it. But we have not heard. I tried to get a hold of the DNR guy yesterday, but I could not get in touch with him to find out anything, so. So I don't, that's just something for the counties to keep an eye on. So if we know something, or I know something, I'll let you know.
Okay, thank you.
That's all I have, except I need signatures from you, George.
Are there any questions for Dwayne?
And I'm get out of the way, and I'm going to come up with signatures.
Okay, thank you. We'll move to number 7, a public hearing. Now, if there's anyone here who wishes to speak at this public hearing, there should be, Verge, am I right, a sign-up sheet over there, and that we can get it up to the front table, asking you to your desire to speak for or against or for information. So this is a public hearing request for a land use change, a rezone from traditional ag to residential 20 up there on Highway 10 near Oliva, town of Albion. You're going to read this.
That's what I've been told.
Okay. Beth, someone's taking over your
Kelly,
job.
you wanna read it?
Go ahead,
That's just
Kellen.
fine with me.
Bear with me, it's my first attempt at Beth's job. But there will be a public hearing before the Trempealeau County Environment and Land Use Committee on Wednesday, February 2nd, 2022 at 9 a.m. in the county boardroom of the courthouse, 36245 Main Street, Whitehall, Wisconsin. Purpose, the land use change or rezone from transitional agriculture, TA, to residential 20, R20 on approximately 9 acres for the purpose of creating 2 residential parcels. Part of the northeast quarter of the southwest quarter and part of the northwest quarter of the southeast quarter, all in section 10, T24 North, range 9 West, town of Albion, Trempealeau County, Wisconsin. Hearing requested by Chris J. Oyam, landowner and petitioner.
Watch this.
Do I need to keep reading, Verge? Your attendance and comments are encouraged at this hearing. If you're unable to attend and have any questions, please call Mark Carlson with the Department of Land Management at 715-538-1919 or email at mark.carlson@county.trempealeau.wi.us. If you are unable to attend and desire to submit a written comment, please send your written comment to Department of Land Management, P.O. Box 67, Whitehall, Wisconsin 54773, or email to mark.carlson@co.trempealeau.wi.us. Please know that written comments will be read at the public hearing, up to 250 words. All written comments must include the name and address of its author and request that the letter be read at a particular meeting date. Any special interest groups or expert witnesses will be allowed 20 minutes to give a presentation and must register at least 1 week prior to the meeting by calling Mark Carlson of the Department of Land Management at 715-538-1919. Sincerely, Mark Carlson, Zoning and Sanitary Specialist.
Is Mr. Oyam here?
Right there.
Pull up a chair. So we're going to have Mark describe what the request is, and then you get to add anything that you think he may have missed. I'll call.
George, I lost volume. I can't hear anything.
That's because I haven't turned my mic on. Is that better?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, thank you. And then I'll request anybody who might want to speak 3 times, and then we'll open it up to discussion and possible action, okay? Mark, what's the request?
Well, Mr. Oyam has 10 acres, like stated in the reading. He wishes to split off 3 acres of that to sell to another individual. And I guess he could have went to R8, but we chose R20 because the land use plan specifies that's what they would like to see future zoning be, so we just followed the land use plan as far as comprehensive planning goes. He does have an acre of that 3 that is zoned commercial, and that's not going to change. That's specified in the resolution that's the exception. And he's just requesting it so he can split it off. I have a letter from the town. I have not received any other correspondence or emails or phone calls or nothing in regards to his rezone.
That pretty much describe it? Okay. Is there anyone here who wishes to speak to this request to rezone from transitional ag to R20? Is there a telephone number they could call that we could actually link to here? If you wish to call in to let your ideas be known, 715-538-1770. 715-538-1770 will get you into this public hearing. Is there anyone who wishes to speak to this issue? I'm going to hold off on that third one. I'll mention the telephone number one more time, 715-538-1770. 1770. Mark, did you say you had a communication from the township?
Yes, I do.
You want to read that?
The Albion Town Board considered request by Chris William during its regular monthly meeting on December 14th, 2021, to approve a zoning change from transitional ag to residential 20 on parcel number 002-00227-000, excluding the portion that is currently zoned commercial. The property is further described as part of the northeast corridor of the southwest corridor, section 10, Township 24 North, Range 9 West, located in the Township of Albion. The board considered the following facts and circumstances. No adjoining or neighboring property owners appeared to object. Mr. Williams requesting the change in zoning to split the residence from the property for the purpose of selling it to another party. The request from Transag to R20 is in accordance with the Town of Albion Land Use Plan. After careful consideration of the facts and circumstances, the board passed a motion in favor of granting a zoning change from transitional ag to R20 for parcel number 002-227 or 002-227-000, excluding that part currently zoned as commercial. All future property usage, including driveways, shall meet the criteria required for residential use and conform to current zoning rules and regulations as administered by the Trumpealeau County Comprehensive Zoning Ordinance, Town of Land Use, Albion Land Use Plan, and subject to other applicable regulation by the state of Wisconsin, County of Trempealeau, and Town of Albion. Thank you sincerely, Sherry Nelson, Albion Town Clerk.
She is thorough. Wow, love that language. My third time, is there anyone who wishes to speak to this issue, either for or against, or have any questions? Hearing none, and since the phone isn't ringing off the hook, I'll close the public hearing at 9:27 and open it up to the committee.
Jillian would make a motion to approve.
I'll make a motion to approve the change.
Oh,
Okay.
sorry, Beth, did you make a motion?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
I'll second it.
And second by Wallig. Any discussion? Sherry mentioned it in her note, Mark, but are there any issues related to driveway?
Well, there will be, I'm sure, if they wanted to section off other lots, because
Yes.
the state of Wisconsin more than likely would not grant driveway permits. They'd have to build some type of frontage road or something, but as of right now, I don't think that's in the plans. I think he just wanted to retain some of the cropland, and then he wanted to sell the residents and the other buildings to another party.
Okay.
But that will be an issue if he goes down that road eventually, but I don't think that's in the plans at this time, so.
Yeah.
So then
Tony.
it's just two, the existing building site, and then one more would be, that's the
Right,
two.
correct, yep.
To be to the west then, or whatever, of the current building site.
Yes, yep.
Okay.
This will require a CSM or not?
He's got a CSM, I think, in the works or waiting for approval, so.
Okay. Well, any other questions, discussion? We have a motion and a second. All in favor of approving the rezone, say aye. Aye. Opposed? All right, it's approved. Now, Mr. Oyam, this needs to go before the full county board, and that we don't meet until the 20th, that's
28.
That's December of 2021, the 28th. And Verge or Mark will get you information about that, okay? All right, thanks for coming.
Thank you, guys.
So Mark, why don't you grab a seat? Thank you. And kind of talked about stuff like this last month, didn't we? Who's going to be taking the lead on this discussion? Haley. Haley, okay, yes.
Mark me as
Go
a
ahead.
yes vote.
Beth is saying something.
All right. I'm sorry, Beth, could you,
Can Kella mark me as a yes vote with an X?
yes.
Okay, ready? Okay, so Mark Nelson is here. We are going to be looking at a conditional use permit number 2012-0124. an extension for that conditional use permit to continue mining at the Butte Sand Mine off of Highway 53. So I had passed out the conditions from the original permit, which should be on our new letterhead, yep. And then I also submitted a aerial. That is our 2020 aerial that was flown in, I believe it was, March, April. So the mine is active and is continuously, not continuously, but is working and complying with those conditions. I was out there yesterday to look at that mine. Chuck did a inspection last fall while he was with the department, and when I was there yesterday, everything looked to be in order. So I would say everything is good with this conditional use permit. He is looking for a 2-year extension. That is per the ordinance of the 1303 of the Trempealeau County Comprehensive Zoning Ordinance is a 2-year extension, and they are allowed to do continuous extensions. They just do it every 2 years. So what we're looking for is 2-year extension from February 21st is when his would expire of this year. So then it would extend to February 21st of 2024. If you have any questions for me, I guess that's kind of a brief overview. Mark might have some more comments, questions, information for if you guys have that. So otherwise, just an extension to this current conditional use permit.
I'm looking around the room and I realize I'm the only one from the southern part of the county who knows where this is. All right. It's pretty easy to see, yes, it's true.
One up in the hillside there, isn't it, on the right when you go down?
That's correct, yep.
Does anyone have any questions for Mark? I guess I do. It's been a long time. How many acres do you have yet to open up, or have you opened up what it is that?
No, I haven't opened it all up. The parcel there, actually, I own the property now. Vernon
Okay.
View used to own it. I've purchased it. There's 47 acres there. Not all of it's mineable, but I think we have 4 acres open right now.
Yep.
And obviously annually I meet with the department and we determine how much we've got open and make sure we're on top of the reclaim process, I guess you'd call it.
Okay. So how much reclamation has been done, or what's the schedule for reclamation?
We haven't, at the phase that we're at right now, everything is opened and we can't reclaim it until we get around the corner, I would call it. So once you've got one section done, you would reclaim as you go, but as of the point we're at right now, there is no reclaim being done.
Yep, still on phase 1, still working through that first phase, no reclamation due at this point. Once he moves into that phase 2, then we would be looking at reclamation for that first phase and then moving into that second. But that's all dependent on demand for that sand, and it hasn't exceeded the current mine operation.
I am looking for a motion
Well,
to
I'll make
approve
a
the
motion to
extension.
approve it, yep.
By Wallach.
Approve the extension.
And second by Munson. And this will be for 2 years, starting February. Oh, there's Beth. Beth's picture is back. Hello.
Oh, this way I can give you a thumbs up if you can't hear me.
Yeah, you are still pretty quiet. So we have a motion, a second, and that would be extended until when?
It would be extended until February 21st, 2024. I do have some paperwork that I'll have to have George sign once everything has been, if it is going to be approved, once everything is approved. I will have the county board chair, or the committee chair sign paperwork to make sure that that is extended. And then I will be then making a copy and mailing it out to Mark so that all paperwork is in order.
Okay, great. So a motion, a second to approve the 2-year extension. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? All right, the extension is approved. Thanks for coming in, and thanks for being on top of that.
Yep.
We've been trying to catch up on this sort of thing, and this is a good example of how the process works. So
All right,
thanks.
thank you.
Thank you, Mark. I might as well just leave
When
it
did
on.
you get down there?
Oh, I'm all over the county.
Yeah, okay. Okay, next on the agenda is County Conservationist Operations Report. Haley, will you be taking that?
I will be taking that, so you get to hear me a little bit longer. So, as you know or you don't know, Chuck is no longer with the department. He did move on to retirement there. So I'm going to take over and kind of give an update on the department and what we've been working on. So quick update on the speaking and poster contest that was
Yes.
held on January 11th. We had a fairly good turnout for the poster contest. We had 62 posters. And in all divisions, so we had representation in each of them, so that was really good to see. Let me pull up. So we sent the first place of each division then to the regional competition, which was held on January 19th or 20th, somewhere around there. It's all virtual, so they're allowed it to have a little bit longer of a time frame. But our second and third grade division is moving on to state. So that poster took first at regionals. The rest of our posters, they either took third or second. So just a great turnout from Trempealeau County as far as poster contest. So I let all the winners know, so I'm returning posters shortly with ribbons and everything. So it'll be a grand experience for those kids. The speaking contest, we had 3 participants on January 11th from Ettrick Elementary. Really great speeches. It was really fun to listen to the 3 speakers. Our winner was Caleb Johnson. His speech was titled "Wisconsin Walleyes Hit a Wall," and he was very enthusiastic about it. It was very cool. So we sent his speech over to the regionals. Again, that was held virtually, and he took first in regionals, so he will be moving on to state.
Whoa.
So that'll be held virtually as well. The Land and Water Conference is now a virtual conference. So I will be sending his recorded speech over to the state representatives, and we'll see how far he goes. I'm really excited for him. I haven't shared the speech as of yet because I don't want to give anything away if any other counties are looking to see what others are, participating and stuff. So I want to make sure that he gets his time to shine at the state competition before releasing that speech. So once we know, then I'll definitely release it, post on the Facebook. So be on the lookout after, I would say, like March 10th or so. Look for that because I'll be definitely posting it because his speech was great. I really enjoyed it. So that was really fun.
That speech was recorded in
It
our
is.
community television studio.
Yep, so thank you to the television studio for allowing us to use the studio and recording that and getting that all ready and packaged for us so we could send it off to the regional and the state. So we really do appreciate you guys. Then I will give kind of an update here on the tree and shrub program because that is moving right along. I have pretty much done a final call to the nurseries for what our inventory is going to be, and we are sold out of pretty much all of our conifers right now. So if you were looking for that, sorry. We have white cedars left as far as conifers. We do have some deciduous trees left and bushes and everything. We are out of the American hazelnut, but we are getting lower. There's about a month left to order, so if you're thinking about ordering, definitely get a hold of me and getting that order form in and your payment so we can get that ordered for you guys. So it's great to see the good turnout. I have over 100 orders already. So it'll be work come April when things are being passed out and everything. So I might be looking for a few volunteers here. So anything is welcome, and it'll be a great turnout. So that's that for the tree and shrub, the youth education stuff. Projects we're moving right along. We have the county conservationist position open. That position, the application process closes on February 7th, if I remember correctly. And we should be having a new staff member coming on February 14th, if I remember correctly. And that is filling the conservation specialist position. So we are growing, and we'll have a full staff, I would say, within the next couple months. So that'll be exciting. I guess if you have any questions, let me know. I guess that's kind of a brief overview.
Riveting. Thank you, Haley.
Yep.
No questions? No questions? Okay. Well, what you're doing is reporting on all the stuff that we had asked of conservation, the conservation pod, so to speak, or the conservation quadrant of the department. And thank you for getting back with all the reports. Thank
Yeah,
you.
not a problem.
Do you have any applicants as of right now?
I don't know. I'm not involved
You're
in
not
that
in that,
process.
okay, that,
Talk to this guy over here, yeah. The quiet guy, am I right?
I haven't checked, the closing date's February 7th.
Yeah,
And
okay.
typically, the applications
Come in the last day or two.
The last couple days, so.
okay.
We'll get there.
All right, thank you.
Or did you have a question?
I was just gonna, have you guys concreted anything on that breakfast walk?
Oh, for Petrick Park?
Yeah, that you might want to mention this.
We're working on a hiking, snowshoeing walk at Petrick Park sometime in middle to late February, so keep an eye out on the Facebook page for that, as we will be putting on an event at Petrick Park for the winter. I don't know much more as far as that, but definitely keep an eye out on all of the Facebook pages, Petrick Park, the tourism page, and the DLM page, because we will be posting all about that. So keep an eye out. It is an event in the planning stages, so it's an exciting one.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
So let's move to number 10 on the amended agenda. This is a discussion on subdivision ordinance revisions, and I perused them on my email, and I was, can you speak to this in as much as Joe is on vacation?
Mark will do so.
Oh, Mark will do this, okay.
Well, Joe and Mike talked about it mostly, but I guess if you don't have any copies of what was sent in your email, I did make some copies, but it looks like they want to change a little bit on the definition, of a public highway frontage, to measure at right angles. There's been issues with surveyors trying to dispute that, so they want to keep it the way it's been looked at and make it all uniform, as far as, instead of measuring the meander, measure at a right angle, 100 feet. And that's how he's done it, since its implementation, and he wants it in there as something in writing that says that. And then some of the other stuff that's been changed in here is just things that Joel probably wanted added. And then removing, stuff that hasn't really been used since implementation, possibly removing it.
Why don't you just run through those? I remember looking at them, and it struck me that
Well,
that
chapter
was
3
very
is general requirements, and it'll mention
esoteric,
24.
right
but-
angle thing, so, but with the other ordinances, what was his suggestions?
Well, in chapter 3 lot requirements, he's talking about 100 foot of public frontage. He wanted to add it in there as measured at right angles to the existing property line. And then, we didn't use it very often, but it was in there to round up to the next highest density. He wanted it to be rounded down, as far as lots for density. And he wanted to clarify that anything existing on the effective date of this ordinance, which every township has a different date when they accepted the amended ordinance, if that house was there prior to that acceptance, that density split would not be counted against the maximum density. And then he had removed cluster development. We haven't used cluster development, as far as I know, in the last 10 years for sure, but it's still got to meet the R20 density requirements, but cluster was you'd have all the houses in one area and then have like a little
Open area.
and things haven't really progressed to that, And I did look it up in the comprehensive plans, and it just says it would be beneficial to have cluster development. It doesn't say it's a required thing to have. So I don't think it's contradiction to anything, that isn't being done already, Like an R20 subdivision, most of them want to max out as many lots as they can get, they don't want to have a little play area for everybody to, leave whatever. It's just, the interest wasn't ever there as far as I know.
Well, it was, it had to do with minimum lot sizes.
Yeah.
And the ability of getting septic systems and so forth.
And I think you can probably gain, if you called it cluster development, you could probably gain one extra lot per, as far as density goes. It looks like, they have like primary ag, generally it's, 2, now you can get 3 per 40, and then rural residential was usually 4 per 40, you can get it up to 5, if they chose that route. I mean, there wasn't a substantial increase in packing the houses in there. They just wanted areas that remained agricultural or rural type setting, instead of having a subdivision. But like I said, I haven't seen any subdivisions that were designed according to cluster development anyways, because most of them are 2 acres or more, some of the subdivisions we see developed now. People want a little bit of bigger acreage, and you gotta have room for sewer, septic, and any other little outbuilding you want to put in eventually, so. And I think that's pretty much it for, and then there was some language in there about constructing over lot lines. He just wanted that completely removed. There shall be no construction over lot lines. I'm not really sure why that would be allowed in the first place. I mean, there's setback requirements for lot lines. I don't know why they would even have language over a lot line, unless you probably own 2 lots or something, but I guess, and then the definition, the only definition they changed was adding to the public highway frontage, make sure it's specified that the frontage is measured at right angles instead of the meander of the road. If you had a road that did a 180 or you want to use the right angle measurement. And then under the subdivision ordinance, when the Corp Council codified them all, they changed it from chapter, or section 16, now it's its own standalone chapter 24. Wants that kind of cleaned up. And then added, some different things about for jurisdiction. He wanted the highway right-of-way plats and conveyances, that's part of the jurisdiction. He wanted a few items added, what he wanted to see on a certified survey map, clarified what he wants to see on the map, Buildings shall be shown to scale, different, lot area is specified on there. That's pretty much all he's changed on that. I think it's just kind of cleaning up some of the language and making it very clear that he wants the 100-foot of lot
Of road
frontage measured that way, so it's all uniform. Because there was a couple surveyors, I think, that were debating how they should, they want to squeeze a little bit of footage out of something. And he's always measured it at the right angle, 100 feet. And he wanted that specified, from my understanding anyways, he wanted it specified, and that way it's uniform and it's in writing.
Tony, you had something?
I can testify to that because the town of Unity had an incident this summer in that same fact, that we needed to know where our town road ended so a party could split off some land. And this surveyor kind of made a meander to satisfy a code. And Joe says, no, we cannot do that. And then that also protected the current neighboring landowner because he had supposedly a life lease to his property instead of a direct. So it kind of made things very clear and specified to protect the town and all
That's kind of where this
property
all
owners.
stemmed from, I believe.
That's what I'm thinking, yes.
It's kind of been that's always how it's been measured. It doesn't say otherwise it just says 100-foot of frontage. Well, if you have it specified, everybody's treated the same, and people don't try to extend roads and make them, that's kind of why it was all brought up, I believe. So.
I understand.
This is just for informational purposes at this time, we're gonna have to have, it's a change to the ordinance, so we'll have a public hearing and all that kind of stuff at maybe next month. I'm not even sure when it's gonna be scheduled, but this is kind of for your review at this time. This is what the changes are being proposed to be.
I understand the rationale on the cluster development. I was part of the discussion during that time, and I thought that was pretty brilliant at the time.
Well, I think so too. I mean,
But
the theory was pretty good anyways, but I mean, it
I'm
just showed.
surprised that no one's taken it up.
No one's ever really addressed, in the comprehensive plan, they have, you got 4 houses on 10-acre lots, which is a huge lot, but then they just said, so five houses on 2-acre lots on the same 40, and then you have the other area that just remains. But then, I don't know, people are still gonna own those lots, who's gonna, I don't know, I mean, I can understand the theory behind it all, but I guess I don't know.
Yeah.
One check we have to make on that cluster development is there might be a requirement in the comprehensive planning law in state statutes that we have to have this on the books, so we're gonna double check that before we include that in the
To
revisions.
have to have?
To include it as an option.
Oh,
So we're just, it's one of those details we're gonna check before we include that in the
okay.
formal changes.
If there's some roadblock with that, it would just be left in and it'd still just be something that's, in the actual township comprehensive plans, it doesn't, it just says it's beneficial and, you know, some land is left to rural setting, it doesn't say, their plans ain't recommending it or requiring it, it just says it would be beneficial. I mean, I hope they would take some of that language from state statute, but who knows, I guess, but.
Well, this was
Informational only.
Do we have a schedule for
I haven't seen anything
or
on it.
getting it all down in black and white and posting it in public hearings and so forth?
We could do that at the March meeting.
Okay.
I mean, the last time we did that, remember we had that camping one that we amended or changed?
Mm-hmm.
It'd be something similar to that, I think.
Okay.
Well, the camping one is a zoning ordinance, so that's got different rules. This one, I mean, there's different rules for the zoning
Mr.
ordinance
Chair.
and different rules for these other ordinances.
All right, Beth has got a question?
When I went through all of these, they all make sense to me. That building over the lot line, that brought to my recollection of the situation we had in North Creek. So I thought kind of maybe that's where that one came from.
Okay, thanks. So we have, as Tony pointed out, there are reasons that these things came to Joe's attention.
Yeah, there's always something that was either overlooked or changed that we need to change it to reflect what's being done or what should be getting done.
Mm-hmm. Okay, well, thanks, Mark.
Well,
Keep working on that stuff. Cost share payment requests, which probably are on
We have-
the back of the agenda. No, they're not on the
We
back
have
of the
none.
agenda. Oh, we don't have any, okay. In which case, you get to talk now. Right? Yes?
Yes. As Haley noted, the conservation specialist starts February 14th. We've been working actively on a bunch of state reporting to DATCAP, DNR, DSPS, so we've been engaged in a lot of that kind of stuff. We're also working on our 2021 annual report that we'll bring forward at a future committee meeting. The Land and Water Conference, as mentioned, is now virtual, but that's March 2nd through the 4th. So that kind of conflicts with the ELU meeting that is typically held on March 2nd. And we'll talk about that later in the agenda. And I just want to also congratulate Haley and all the kids on the speaker contest and the poster contest. It really went well, and I looked at a number of the posters, and they were all fantastic, and it's great to see kids being involved with that poster contest. That's all I have.
Wow, okay. Solar farm trends and regulations. In the packet, we got a sample ordinance related to solar farms, and stuck Trempealeau County in there. And why did you highlight energy every time?
That may have been a review, one of the word function things that got caught in there. That ordinance is a very, very rough draft. It needs much more scrutiny. I've been in communications with Corporation Counsel to go over more aspects of that. We've taken information from the presentation from the Public Service Commission, but we need to tie up some more of the details on that. So it kind of gives us a sense of, what we tried to do is give a sense of, addressing solar farms that are under 100 megawatts and do that via conditional use permit. One of the things we need to address is what zoning districts we would allow solar farms in those areas. Typically, most of the communities out there, they allow them in ag districts, not residential. Our current code, to the extent that we have language in for utilities, we allow utilities in almost every zoning district. So those are the kinds of things. And then some communities have looked at doing kind of pollinator plants in between the solar panels to add some environmental value, those kinds of things. So we could potentially look at some of those things. But a big part of it was, there are some potential scenarios related to residential development where if you have small setbacks, say 10-foot setbacks, you could have potentially a rural home surrounded on all four sides. And you can imagine, if you're that homeowner, what happened to the value of that. So one of the things we have to go over with Corporation Counsel is look at to what degree we can list specific restrictions in the ordinance. We may have to just take each proposal on a case-by-case basis, but that could still include setbacks from property lines, fencing, pollinator plants between those kinds of things. So we'll be working with Corp Counsel to kind of bring a proposal that's fine-tuned at a future committee meeting.
Did anything jump out at any of you who looked at this stuff?
I thought it was a good presentation. I think she used to have a member of the public service, if I'm not.
Oh, yeah, you were at the Public Service Commission thing, yeah.
And describing, the megawatt farms on how they manage anything basically over 100, if I'm not right.
Over 100
Right,
megawatts,
Mike?
yes. Yes.
And otherwise, you have to have a conditional
Use permit,
for
yeah.
under 100.
Yeah, that's what we would propose here.
Yeah. I had my notes and didn't bring them along, so I can't go back and look at them. But it was a good program.
Tony, do you have something?
Yeah, the 300-foot setback or whatever stipulated, there's a gray area there on future incidences that could arise that correlate. Mike brought that up on setbacks and other things, depending on where it would go in a situation.
Yeah, I think one of the things we need to fine tune is I think there may be something somewhere in a state statute or somewhere where you have to take each situation case by case, but the example of a significant setback is for that kind of that singular home situation, or is what's an appropriate setback from solar panels to a residential home. So, and that could be a different number.
Kellen, do you have something?
Where does Arcadia have their 35-acre field?
Just east of town.
East of town.
East of town?
Just
Southeast.
Up 95?
Thompson.
Yeah, and Quick Trip kind of up the hill.
Thompson Valley,
All right.
just west of Thompson Valley.
I just have probably just as many or more questions than I ever have regarding this. Coincidentally, in my work, I ended up visiting with somebody from another part of the state who wishes to remain anonymous, who is dealing with the same exact company. And didn't have glowing things to say, we'll say. So, a lot of concerns. Not sure if we're gonna have a leg to stand on to say anything. In fact, it sounds like we don't, to me. So, it's concerning, but it is, I don't know what we can say about it.
One of the, and I am trying to get the recording out to you guys. PSC IT needs to get login accounts or something so you can, it's a large file. Well, one of the slides in the presentation had a list of a number of the solar farms out there, and some of them were significant size, 1,000 to 3,000 acres.
Which is being
What they're proposing here.
proposing for town of Caledonia, yeah.
So those are significant numbers, and that would certainly be over 100 megawatts in that size. Like I said at a previous meeting, it's a 48-page application packet that describes everything, so it's a lot of information that goes to the PSC. But they have a lot of flexibility on how to approve things. It's still, so it's still a challenge, I think, to get that much acreage together. But, at the end of the day, we'll see.
As we've discovered in our ag enterprise zones, for instance.
Right.
One of the things that stuck out to me in the sample ordinance was the possibility of encumbering neighboring properties, basically saying the benefit of, suggesting that the benefit of the solar power is greater than the need of a neighbor to build a house or to plant a tree. In other words, the neighbors are encumbered so as not to use their land, which is in a certain within a certain distance of the solar panels. And that's sketchy. I mean, that's it makes sense if a solar panel is on a roof and the neighbor decides to put up a second story, thereby decreasing the effectiveness of the solar panel. That makes sense. If you're putting solar panels on the ground and the neighbor is now not allowed to use their land for whether it's privacy fence or whatever, so that becomes an issue. I love my REC news. It's short, easily digestible, nice pictures, all sorts of stuff, and they tend not to go headlong into issues, but rather just broadly deal with them. So, in this issue, which we probably all have, they have two articles related to alternative or renewable energy. One, if I put my glasses on, talks about the need to meet the zero carbon emission pathways to net zero by 2050, and then there's some a barely readable map and how much wind energy capacity exists, and also some talk about solar energy, but also some interesting discussion about resistance from communities. One in Cambridge, Wisconsin, who are dealing with the same issue, a 24,000 acre, 300 megawatt solar farm that, let's see. Well, and also the Kashkanan solar suggestion, and so they just talk about it, they just mention it. But what I found interesting as I went towards the back of the, when you're talking about 3,000 acres, you're talking about somebody with a lot of financial resources who can either promise that, the lease money, or can come up with the money to do that kind of capital investment. But towards the end of or actually exactly in the middle, there's a ribbon. It's a picture of a bunch of really cold people, including Dennis Frame, the directors of the board of directors of Riverland Energy, doing a ribbon cutting for a energy cooperative solar project, which is a cooperative.
Private property.
It's on private property. It's 20 acres. It's a farmer who invested in, or worked with Riverland Energy, One Energy Renewables, Arch Electric Incorporated, the Greshik Farms, in order to create a 20-acre solar farm. That's privately owned by somebody who intended to do that, and something about goats keeping the grass down. So there are a lot of different approaches to this, and I wondered about that, like the sharp hooves and everything.
I'd heard sheep were acceptable, goats not.
Goats not, oh, maybe it was sheep, I don't know. But so there's a lot of different approaches to this, and whether there's cooperation with the local utilities, or if it's a private entity trying to, to create something entirely different. So I'm looking forward to continuing the discussion, and maybe we can get Dennis Freeman here to talk about what's going on there, or one of these guys. So, and where Riverland Energy stands on all of this.
Well, in that too, didn't it, some part in Texas where they had wildlife corridors that you could not prohibit movement, or they tried to organize them so road traffic wasn't affected from deer accidents? And I mean, they made travel corridors for wildlife specifically, so it's a very well-planned, whoever's doing this is doing their homework. But yeah, how do we stop or control from the infringement of private citizens?
You should, well, actually, since you don't own your property, you probably don't get one. You can have that one. So, yeah, look into that and see if you could find something.
But that's a few years ago.
So, if you, I realized I didn't get a copy of the sample ordinance, that must have been in the email. So, if you all check your emails, there'll be some of that. Chuck, are you getting?
Yep, I'm gonna have to.
You're getting out. Let's quick do, should we go to the 9th?
What's that?
The second
Whatever.
Wednesday?
It'll make whatever.
Okay, well, in which case, we'll wait on that. Future agenda items, this is an example, we've just been talking about a couple of those future agenda items that we talked about in the past. Anything? Okay, I think we've got a lot on our plate already between the possible solar ordinance and the zoning changes, the ordinance changes. So staff, will you be attending virtually?
As far as the Land and Water
Yeah.
Conference? Yes, I will be, I'm going to be signed up here shortly and then attending virtually for those 3 days, so.
Okay. Will you be available? Will you be attending?
I was hoping to, but if you need me here, I can be here.
I will actually be gone that second, too.
I'm seeing a trend here. The 9th, the second,
Looks like Beth has a,
oh yes, Beth.
The 9th would work better for me because we might be traveling on the 2nd.
Okay, let's, unless there's some major conflict with which we find out about what we find out later, and then in which case we'll do a little dance around that. We'll plan on the meeting on the 9th of February, no, 9th of March. Okay, and I got Kurt out of here by 10:30. He needed to be out by 10:30, so I will adjourn the meeting at 10:10. And
Is that 10 to or 10 after?
it was 10:10, it's 10 after.